As we enter the next session, I'm curious. Do you remember when you were asked as a child, what do you want to be when you grow up? What did you say? Give me a few shout-outs. I'm assuming the Swedish people don't know who that is. What else?
I don't know.
You didn't know. Who else? An artist. Teacher. An actress. Firefighter. Astronaut. Superman. Architect. Wonderful. I do wonder how many Supermans and astronauts and fairies we have sitting in the room here today. Somehow on the way, when we start working, it almost feels like we have to let go of those childish dreams. And sometimes it also feels that when we enter the workspace, the office, we almost have to feel like we need to leave our authentic selves behind. Being vulnerable, honest, courageous, humble might not actually seem like the qualities that drive success in business in a lot of cases. Our next speaker argues exactly the opposite, and he invites us to see the workplace as a space for human growth. He himself has gone on quite a journey when it comes to inner and outer growth in both his career and his life. He was born in Iran, and his family had to seek refuge in Austria at an early age. So he didn't exactly have the easiest start to life or school or career. Today, he's one of the most well-known social impact entrepreneurs of Austria. He's built several businesses, invests in other sustainable startups, is an EU youth ambassador, and calls himself a business humanist. But besides his extraordinary story, what makes him truly stand out in the business world is, as you might notice, that he never lost the little boy within himself, that even after thousands of speeches and years of standing in the spotlight, is still in awe each time he steps on a stage. So I would say he proves that by doing the work that you love, you can really turn a dream that you once had as a child into something so big you might not have even come up with it back as a child when you were asked, what do you want to be when you grow old? Please welcome on stage Ali Mahlodji.
20 years ago, someone once said to me, one day you should go to Stockholm. And this was my mom, actually, 20 years ago, in my early 20s. So she's my mom on the right, the other person, it's me. And the thing is, where your life starts, it's just by chance. You have no idea where your life is going to start one day. And so my life started in Iran. 44 years ago, I was born in Tehran. And when I was 2 years old, my parents had to flee from the country. And we made it to Europe as refugees. And I grew up in a refugee camp in Vienna, in Austria. And you know, when you're a refugee, when you're a kid, you have absolutely no idea where to go. You don't have any role models. Some people see you as a threat sometimes. And this is the moment when you have to ask yourself who you want to be. And the thing is, when your parents are afraid of everything, you need to ask yourself later on as a young adult, are all of these fears your fears or theirs? Is their story your story, or do you want to create your own story? And the truth is, when you don't have a place where you can go back and you're a stranger in a new country, for me this is the best start of a life where you can decide who you want to be. But it's very easy saying this as an adult. When you're young, this is not easy. When I was 13 years old, my parents broke up. I started to stutter. I was not able to talk for nearly 10 years of my life until I was 22 years old. And so I was afraid of school, of course. Therefore, I was a school dropout. I started as a floor cleaner. I had more than 40 jobs in my life, and I had never an idea where to go. after that, I found the love for software engineering. I started to work in the field of tech and so on, and this was the first place in my life where I thought I'm able to do something also meaningful for other people with the help of technology. And I remember when I was around 22 years old, I think I was 21, my mom decided she wants to marry again. And she married someone from Sweden. From the city, from the city of Göteborg. We call it Gothenburg. And the thing was, it turned out that I had to visit my mom twice a year. I loved it, to be honest. And every time I left the city, coming back to Vienna, she said to me, Ali, the next time we need to go to Stockholm together. It's a wonderful place. Only one time, please. A city trip together. And I always said to her, one day we will do this. And it turned out that it never happened because she passed away. And last year, it was the beginning of last year when I found out about the IDGs. And I fell in love with them. And in September last year, I booked my flight, I bought the tickets, and I said I want to come to this wonderful place. And when I touched ground last year in Stockholm, it was like, wow, it is a wonderful city. And I started thinking about my mom, who was a social worker, who always believed in people. And last year also something else happened. I was in the audience and I said to a good friend of mine, who's also with me this time, said to him, it's like coming back to the mothership. Because you're surrounded by people who think like you. Until that day, I thought I was a system error. I thought thinking about a better future, maybe it's me. And then you're in this audience with these people, and today it's so amazing that we're here in the house of people. Because being in the house of people, I think this is why we're all doing this. What does it mean being a human being in this world? And especially when you become a teacher of life sometimes, at least it starts when you have kids, okay? These are my 2 daughters, 2-year-old and 6-year-old. You are always a student of life, don't get me wrong. You're always a student until the day you die, but sometimes you have to become a teacher for some people. And then you take a look at these kids and you realize, we as human beings, we talk so much BS about so many things, about the economy, about school, work, retirement, which car is the better one, and so on. And the truth is, the only thing they care about is stuff we all care about until the day we die. Where's the next toilet? Eating, sleeping, and we call it love, and later on we call it respect on eye level, and so on. But we all want to be seen. One of the biggest problems is we do not stand up in business meetings and speak up is because we are afraid of losing the love of others. This is something which is very natural and important for us. And I still remember when yesterday I left Vienna coming to Stockholm, my 6-year-old, I brought her to school. She said to me, Dad, where are you going? And I showed her a picture, okay, of the building. I said, I'm going to the Volkshuset. I think it's called that. I don't know. I think Folketshus, sorry. She was like, what is the Folketshus? And I told her there are so many bright minds there, people who want to change the world, scientists, smart people, and so on. And she told me, Dad, if these people are that smart, why do they need you? And I was like, okay, good question. Last year, if you have attended the conference last year, you saw that a lot of people talked about love, but there was one thing missing. And this is the thing I want to bring into the game today. Today, I will talk about love. But, amazing animation, huh? I made it on my own. Thanks to the YouTube videos out there. Guys, I don't have time. They told me only 20 minutes. I'm a Persian guy. We talk always too much, okay? So please, don't disturb me, okay? I want to talk about love in action. And what does this mean? The craziest thing is on the day we were born, we had no idea that there's something called our mother language. We had no idea if I was born in, I don't know, Iran, in Germany, in France, in the US, but we managed speaking the mother language out of nothing. And the second hardest thing for the human brain, next to the mother language, is called walking around. We had no idea that we need this skill. And we crashed the floor 100 times, but no one ever told us this is a mistake because this is called learning. And we had people around us, our leaders, our parents, who showed us how to do it. They created an environment of growth. And they knew when we hit the floor, it's not like telling us, hey, Your baby friends are better in mother tongue. And by the way, they can walk. What's wrong with you? They trusted us. They knew this is the process. And now in the world, we're hitting the walls. We see that we're crashing the floor 100 times. And we think we are so good to learn everything after a year because there's a framework, because there's a guide. We need to understand that these things are so important for us because we need a direction. We need a language we all speak together because it's the basis of having a great community. But no one wants to make mistakes. We point the finger at other people who at least tried. And this is not how we learn. The second thing when you're a father, what you see is, or a little question to the room, who has kids who are able to speak? No matter if they still speak to you or not, or talk to you or not. Okay. When kids start to talk, what is the first disturbing question every kid asks? Why? It's the purpose question. It's not an Instagram or social media thing. In the moment when we start to communicate with the people around us, we want to understand why we should do something. And kids ask everything. And there was a day when we were the kids. We just forgot. And the thing is, I work in the world of work with experts. I sit in a lot of expert meetings about the future of work in Europe and so on. And everyone is like, we need these 3 skills to have transformation in the companies. We need a culture of making mistakes and learning out of it. Questioning everything would be amazing if our employees would do this. And the third thing is, we need people who love to experiment. We're not afraid of walking new directions. And the thing is, we need to help people to remember who they are. The main job of us in this room is to become a gardener of human development. We need to help people who they are. And when you take a look at the work of a gardener creates an environment and is not pulling the plant. And we in society, we pull the plant, we tell each other what's wrong, instead of creating environments where people have the feeling, okay, someone sees me, all of my struggles. And the fun part is when you take a look at the world these days, to the discussions, people are like, should we start with the grassroots movement? Should we work with the businesses? Should we work with the government? The world doesn't care. The question is, where are the gardens where we can develop people? And the truth is, when you take a look at the numbers, far more people are employees than self-employed. And these people are fathers, these are mothers, these are sons, these are daughters. These are people with hopes, dreams, and fears. And especially when you take, for example, take a look at the European Union, for example. Then you will see that more than 80% of the people are employees inside of organizations. So when we talk about the bad organizations sometimes, what do we mean? Do we understand that this is a system, but inside of the system there are people who maybe want more out of life? And when you take a look at the last numbers from the study from Gallup from this year about the state of the global workplace and the question about how engaged are people at the workplace worldwide, you will see it's a disaster. Worldwide, only 21% of the people on a global scale are engaged with their job, with their hands, their hearts, and their brain, as they call it. Most of the people are sitting in the office and having no idea what to do. And you know, back in the days, 20 years ago, having people in your office who were not engaged was not a problem because you told them what to do. It was just very, very simple. I started my career in a world where you had one person telling you what to do. I know this world. More than 20 years ago, I started my career in a large organization in Germany as a business consultant. Then I became one of the youngest managers in Europe in a US tech company. It was one of the pictures where I would say I was young and I needed the money. Yeah, these pictures. All of us, we have these pictures. And what I saw during that time, more than 20 years ago, was it was so simple telling people, this is the road in our business in the next 10 years. Just do your work. Don't think about the future. I don't need your engagement. I don't need the entrepreneur inside of the organization. It was not needed. But we all know that that world has changed. The last few years we talked about the VUCA world. Now we're talking about the Bani world. It's a world where people are like, the world is brittle. There's a lot of anxious around. And people have no idea what is going on at the moment. and we're all in the same boat. No matter if you talk to a taxi driver in Stockholm, if you talk to a CEO, if you talk to some young people out there, to parents, everyone feels something is wrong. And what we saw in the business world in the last 10 years is that more and more leaders said, this world is too complex for me. I can't handle it on my own. And the companies who realized that started with an inner shift inside of the organizations where they started talking about entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs. They found out that maybe KPIs is not the only way to go. We need much, much more. We need to bring people into a position where they understand that we have a new age of ownership. We call it inner development. I understand. But this is something we saw in the last few years. So the business world has this pressure that now that no one knows what the future is, we need everyone in an organization being engaged. The problem is only 20% of the people are engaged. On the other side, there is people are craving for meaning. When you take a look at the generation global, these are the young ones starting at the age of 14 to 17 until 30, 35. They want to have a good life. And numbers from Nielsen since 2018, they show that all of these people, when they buy a product, when they work somewhere, they want to deal or work with companies and organizations where they have the meaning, this idea, it is meaningful what we're doing. And we know from so many people before us that those who have a why to live, they can bear with almost anything. And don't get me wrong, please, the world outside is sometimes horrible and sometimes it's the most beautiful place at the same time. But it was also Frankl who once said that life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by the lack of meaning and purpose. And this is something I learned the hard way from my parents, which once told me that no one has the power to tell you what your future is. You decide who you want to be, but work for something, not against something. This makes a big difference. If you work for something or against something. If you work against something, you will be stressed. You will be burnt out, and then you're useful for no one. Working for something is like a strong force that tells you that everything that happens to you has a reason. And you know what I mean if you have been through dark times. I'm today the CEO of an organization called Future One. And what we do is, this is the mission of the organization, bringing love, purpose, and humanity back into the business world and society. So what we do is, 50% of our time, we work with some of the largest organizations in the world. We'll help them in the new kind of leadership and so on. But we never talk about inner development in the first place. We talk about the Trojan horses. Performance, new work, burnout prevention. You need to learn the language of the people you want to help to transform. This is 50% of my time. The other 50% of my time, I work with kids. Okay? In the last, I think, 11 years, more than 700,000 kids worldwide. It looks like this on the right corner. It's more like a rock show. And I visited kids. I visited kids all around the world. And people ask me, how come you work with leaders and with kids? Huh? And I'm like, it's the same. There was a time when these people were kids, but they forgot. Someone told them you need to behave like this to get promoted in your job. And when you work with kids, I never see these people as kids. Sometimes I work with 6-year-olds. I never see them as kids. I always see them as the adults of the future. And then you go to school where you know that there are kids who do not believe in themselves, and you help them to rewrite their own story. Think about the belief systems they got from their parents, checking in what is useful and maybe what is not part of the future. And then you can help kids to thrive. And this is the same thing you do with adults, because it's only the story we tell ourselves. And what we also try to teach kids is, you know, in this today's world, everyone is waiting for wonder, but you can create one. There is stuff you can do every day, but sometimes you need to let go, because other people worldwide also want to have a better life. And I can tell you, there are companies, for example, I started working with. It's called, for example, voestalpine. It's a steel company, a global one. 6 years ago, no one was talking about inner development. Now people want to work with the youngest one in their organization about their dreams, about their hopes, who they want to be one day, what is important for them when it comes to connection, having meaningful work and so on. And this started because one of their leaders started working on high performance issues, and they ended up in a meditation. And after 2 days of doing this, they raised the question, are we doing the right things inside of the organizations? Are the people ready for what is coming up? then you work with these people, and then you see that the people who are like, it's just a job, they understand maybe I should be the embodiment of the change internally. And then you have top leaders who are like, okay, until today I was afraid of speaking up in the meetings, but now I have to do it because it's not because of myself, it's because of others. And I also teach at the University of Cambridge in the field of sustainability leadership, but only with top leaders, executives. And then you have these people, and they all want to learn some tactics. And you work with them, you go deep. Instead of broadcasting, you do deep casting in a very, very strong way. And then they're like, maybe we're in this job because we really need to change something. And you know what? Being a leader is a privilege. Being in this room is a privilege. Having this mindset and being awakened from the world and understanding I can change something. Something is wrong out there. If you have this point of view about the world, then you're privileged. Because a lot of people are in this daydream about life. And sometimes people ask me, why are you so motivated? And I'm like, there is no other option in the world. What should I do? Run around and say, oh, the world is doomed? If I start this, I'm not useful for anyone out there. And don't get me wrong, I worked on my traumas a lot. It took me nearly 40 years of my life until I did not thought maybe one day I will end under a bridge. This is the story I had from my parents. And in today's world, when you go to social media, when you go to LinkedIn, everyone can tell you some amazing quotes about change. Go to LinkedIn and post, be the change you want to see in the world. 100 likes. Share, yeah, I think the same way. Yeah, wonderful. Gandhi was an amazing guy. Emoji. What does that even mean? What does this mean? So today I got asked by someone in an interview, how did you find your purpose? And I said, it's like love. When you run around looking for your purpose, you won't find it. It's like going to the bar saying, today I will find the love of my life. Guess what? You will go home alone. When you start living your life, people will come to you. When you start to realize that everything that happens in your life happens for you, not against you. You realize, for example, that maybe, in my case, your purpose is to create a world where every human being who's born has the feeling, I'm good enough. No matter who I am, where I'm from. This is my purpose, but it came to me because I started to realize that all of the darkness in my life, it had a meaning. I tried to master it. I don't say that I'm done. But then you have become a teacher to hand it over to others. And when I was in the corporate world, I also started working as a teacher. Because I found out that maybe working with kids is something where I can give back. And the crazy part was, this was 2010 when I was a teacher. I talked to the kids about their future, what they want to do with their life and so on. And they told me, we have no idea what to do. We have no orientation. And I was so angry about dedications. I was like, when I was a kid, I had no orientation. Now, so many years later, kids still don't have any orientation, although there's technology around. Then I was like, if I'm going to have kids one day, and they will tell me, Dad, we have no idea what to do, we have no orientation about the job market, I don't want to tell them, guys, you know, when I was a kid, the problem was all around. Sometimes you see a problem, and when you see that this problem is bothering you, it's just an invitation of life that maybe you should be the solution. And then I thought, what was the thing which I wished for when I was a kid? And when I was younger, I always said to my dad, I wish for a handbook of life stories, where I can learn from stories from people around the world. And what my dad also told me was always that opportunities are always there. What you are doing out of it, it's up to you. And so instead of just being angry, I started putting this anger into transformation. And whenever I'm angry today, I start a new company. This is how I deal with my anger and my emotions. And so I was a teacher, and I started in my spare time. I bought myself a camera, I think it was 300 euros, and I interviewed at the beginning random people on the streets from Austria about their job, about their life, about their background. I was at home. I tried to make cool videos for the kids. And this little platform I started with just open source tools became one of Europe's largest job orientation platforms in the German-speaking market, reaching out to millions of kids. I had to quit my job, starting a startup, becoming an entrepreneur, and then I saw that a lot of people told me, Ali, this was the thing I was looking for when I was a kid. And during the growth of the company, we started working with more than 600 B2B partners who use the platform for employer branding. And on the other side, we help millions of young people finding orientation. And when I started the whole thing, I realized one simple thing. You can't be inspired here at the IDG Summit. You all can go home. Monday, you can go to your offices and you can be like, wow, it was such an inspiration. Maybe I should do something one day. Or you realize one simple thing. Maybe today is day one of the rest of your life. Maybe there is no tomorrow. And the question is, who is writing the story you have in your mind? Because these days, we let other people tell us the story. But I try to create this picture that maybe it's totally up to us. What is the headline of tomorrow? And maybe the headline of tomorrow is something we want to create here. But changing the world is not easy, don't get me wrong. But it's also not okay saying others should change the world. So many people are like, I would hope that my boss would see this. I hope that the businesses would do this. And I don't think that this is the way to go. What I learned is you need to learn the language of the system you want to change. The language, the playbook. And then you go into the system and then you start to become the light tower for others and you show others what has worked for you. And then with time, you see that other people, they will lose their own fear and they're like, okay, if you can do it, I can also do it. I see it over and over again, the last 10 to 20 years in businesses. And sometimes people ask me, Ali, what is the future about? And I'm like, I have no idea, guys. But one thing is for sure. If you want to have a better future for yourself, for your families, for the people you care, for the environment, you all need to understand, guys, it's a privilege to be here because you are the enablers of the futures. And something in the world thought it is good giving you a life. You have a heart that beats for you without doing anything for it, and you're surrounded by people who want to change something. And we have a world where people have to do this voluntarily to saving the world while others are destroying it full time. We know that. But the question is, when you write your own story, at the end of your life, try to become the adult you wished for when you were a kid. You all were born with talents, with values, and with amazing things maybe you only see. And we have this one lifetime. And we have some of the biggest challenges in front of us. But we all want to be heroes. Therefore, we go to the movies. And this is a chance to become one. Not a lonely one, but in an amazing community. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure if you have turned your back to the audience before, just to make sure everyone can also see.
Love is the answer.
Here we go. Ali, you said before, let's cut the bullshit.
I said BS. I did not say bullshit.
Now I said
She
it
said
out
bullshit.
loud. Yeah, well. You said that since you were at the IDG Summit last year, you also kind of learned to be more honest. And
Much more honest.
I wonder, how does that look for you? How do you respond differently to BS in others, but also in yourself?
And for example, there was a time when I had a company, and the company is not existing anymore because my founders and myself were not able to talk about the real stuff. It was always like, yeah, so maybe next time, okay? The harmony is much more important. After the IDGs last year, I said to myself, if I want to be successful in my life as a father, in business, and whatever I do, I need to be very honest to the people around me. Otherwise, they won't be honest to me. And I have a manager since 10 years who is helping me in a lot of things. And the whole communication totally changed. It's much more honest. When we see that someone is talking BS, we immediately say, hey, come on. Don't lie on this thing. Is this the reality or not? Is it just a story you're telling yourself or not? We're just, it started with interrupting the other person much more because you need to interrupt the inner monologue. But for a lot of people around me in the beginning, it was very disturbing because they said, come on, you're a pain in the ass. Today, they are like, thank you so much because we're much more efficient. We know we can trust each other much more. And there is no wrong sense of harmony. Harmony is wonderful. Love is harmony. It's wonderful. But a lot of relationships, they break because of a very, very not fruitful sense of harmony. And as long as you say people the truth, they know that you love them so much that you know they can deal with it. And this is something I learned last year here. And I said to myself, I need to change it immediately.
And what I sense in you is, even if you might risk the harmony on the outside, it seems like you're also creating a bit of harmony on the inside.
It goes hand in hand. It's very important.
Thank you so much for spreading your message. Thank you for spreading the love. Please give it up once more for Ali. Thank you. Talking about